Hey, how's it going? It's Chris here, and in this video, I want to talk to you about landmines. So, if you're familiar with the concept of landmines, you already know what I'm talking about, but if you're not, landmines are essentially the term that I use to mean situations that if you don't address them, they will blow up in your face, right? And the reason why I call them landmines is because they're not always so obvious. Sometimes you think like the problem's not that big of a deal, and then before you know it, the girls are like shutting you down, and it could be very, very unclear why unless you know what to look for. So in this video, I want to tell you what they are, the most common ones that you would encounter, and then I just want you to be aware of every single time that the interaction doesn't go somewhere, especially when it seemed like it should have. I realize it's a landmine, okay? And then you have to think, how do I solve this? And obviously we have the support group, and we're going to be there to help you. But let's just talk about what these landmines are. Now, the first one is that you want to set the real expectation. So a lot of guys, even when I teach this material, I tell them, look, seed to your home, invite her to your home. But what do? They invite her still. I don't understand why. They'll still invite her to the pizza store, right? The pizza store happens to be right across the street from their home or whatever. And sometimes, you know what, it does make sense to do that. So I talk about where you seed to your home, and if she says no, then you're like, well, are you down for pizza? And then you bring her to the pizza store and you're like, awesome. So let's go get pizza. And actually, I live right across the street from there. So if you're down for pizza afterward, we could go over and I could show you my rooftop that I was talking about, or we could do shots, right? But you're not hiding why you're bringing her there. You're actually just making it make more sense. And I want you to understand that. Guys will still seed the pull to the pizza store, which isn't actually seeding the pull, by the way. It doesn't count. And when she gets there, you haven't set any expectation. She just thinks that you tried tricking her. Okay, so instead of showing her, look, I want to make this work, I'm finding all these different angles to make it work and to make you feel comfortable, she feels like you're hiding things, like you're actually, actively trying to trick her, right? And there's nothing wrong with having an agenda. There's a problem with having a hidden agenda because it sets off defenses, okay? So do not do that. Otherwise, you'll ruin it. Now, the second one is never lie to her. So a lot of times I'll hear guys lie about where they're bringing her. They'll say, oh, we're going to an after party. And the girl's like, where is it? And they'll say, oh, it's in my this neighborhood close by or whatever. And they don't actually ever say that it's their home. Or they'll say it's like the travel is about 10 minutes away when really it's 20 minutes away or 30 minutes away or 40 minutes away, right? And I talk about how you could under-exaggerate a little bit, right? The first one, we're saying it's 10 minutes away when it's really 20. It's not that big of a deal. No one's actually sitting there with a timer. Although you probably could use that to build more trust. Like, look, it's super close. We could time it. But just don't lie to her, because what happens is a lot of this method is built off, being very transparent, essentially, and then allowing her to test every step of the way that you're telling the truth, which allows her to think, okay, this guy's not actually trying to do anything weird. But if you're hiding things, she doesn't know that you're trying to hide the fact that you're trying to bring her home for sex, which is already bad enough because you're making it seem like a big deal. But she might think that you're actually trying to kill her or something like that. I'm telling you, there's a lot of weird people out there. And even if you're not that guy, she needs to do her due diligence to make sure she's not being stupid, especially with all the media out there. There's TV shows, Criminal Minds, things like that. And it helps to call it out and be like, wow, you watch too much Criminal Minds, and make her feel like she's freaking out. But when you start giving her reasons to freak out, you're going to make it harder for yourself. So really, you do not lie to her, because if she catches you, you might get all the way there and then she's like, I'm not going inside, and you just ruin everything. So rather get it out of the way from the beginning. Stop trying to trick her into all the yeses and actually start trying to make her okay with all the things she might say no to. Okay, it's a different strategy, and this will actually save you a lot of time and build a lot of trust. Okay, if you're able to talk about the things that are hard to talk about, that builds trust instead of her feeling like you're hiding things. Now, cock blocks. So what happens a lot of the time is you'll approach a girl, it can go really well, and then instead of her friends being super accepting and being like, wow, Jenny found a great guy, the friends could be like huge problems, right? And it does happen to a lot of guys, especially when you go out without wings, who could actively go and address the friends while you're building the connection. It can be pretty hard. So the first thing I try to do is I try to isolate her. I try to take her away. Not a big deal, not a creepy way, but I'm like, okay, doesn't seem like your friends are super supportive. Here, let's go get a drink by the bar or whatever. Here, let's go outside and get some air. right? And I'll start like just moving her away just so the friends don't like, they're not up our ass so much. But if she won't do that, I'll try to build more of a connection with her. If that still is not looking great, then I will actively go and address the friends. So I don't address the friends until the moment that I start to realize they're being problematic, and then I will go and address them. It's very, very important. Do not get the friends involved unless you absolutely have to, okay? Especially if you don't have wings to address them. You want to kind of just deal with it on your own. And deal with her on your own. And but if they're being problems, go and address them and say like, hey, nice to meet you, I'm Chris, right? See if like you could kind of like befriend them a little bit. It doesn't require, don't be fake with them because they know what you're trying to do. Be very transparent. Be like, hey, by the way, I just saw you. You seemed really nice. But I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I pissed you off a little bit. I just wanted you to know I'm Chris. I'm a smart guy. I just like your friend. She's sweet. I'm sure tons of guys approach her. But just so you know, because you don't know me, and she might even try to cut you off. And she's like, hey, wait, just let me say one thing. I'm a normal guy. I have a great life. If we went out on a date, don't worry. She'd be safe. I have a great job. I went to a good school. I come from a good family. So I'm like, just so you know, if it's not obvious, I'm trying to tell you everything that you should know about that I think you'd want to know about, for you to be okay with your friend talking to a guy, right? And you could even keep building off it, right? Like fill in the conversation, dominate it, and give her quality information. So yeah, and just so you know, I'm just telling you all the things that I would want to hear myself. If a guy approached a friend of mine, like I have a lot of female friends. I tell this all the time. I have a lot of female friends, and some guys when they approach, they're fucking weird, and I get that. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy you want to worry about. Great life, great job. I make good money. I dress well. I don't know if you can tell. I'm a gentleman. Okay, you don't have to worry about me. You see that dude over there? That's the guy you want to worry about, and kind of like create that comparison. Now, if that doesn't work, and she won't leave her friends, right? What you want to do is you want to actually try to bring the friends, and then you'll try to close her the way I explained in the closing course. But if you can't bring the friends, obviously bring a wing if you can. But really, like, just keep that in mind. Now, if the friends are absolutely shutting down the idea, which does happen sometimes, some girls are just like really not cool. What you want to do is turn to the girl now. Realize this is not a winning situation for the time being. Turn to your girl and say, hey, look, I don't know. I tried befriending your friends and just making them cool with me. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm sure you could tell I'm a great guy. I'm normal, right? I was telling your friend. I'd love to take you out sometime. When are you free over the next few days? I'm going to invite you out right now, right? And set the date, okay? And I talk about in the dates course. The other one is like, what if she treats you kind of not fair, right? You approach her, you're not doing anything weird, and then she's ignoring you. She's putting on her phone. She's pulling out her phone. Maybe you're even pulling, like this happens a lot where I'll be like pulling the girl and she'll be texting her friend. You got to call it out, okay? It could be pretty annoying and it actually disrupts everything. And this is a rule. The person who has her attention owns they own the interaction. You need to get the attention back. Don't be insecure about it, but more so push her to have respect for what you're trying to create, right? Because you're the guy who's trying to create this whole thing. All she has to do is not fuck it up, okay? You're not asking for a lot. So turn to her and say, hey, is that important, right? And just check, be polite. Maybe it is important. Is that important? She says, oh yeah, it is. 1 second, I'm texting my friend. I'm sorry. You're like, okay, cool. Just finish up and then put it away if you can. The other thing is sometimes, if she still won't put it away, then be like, okay, look, I like you, but I'm not going to compete with your phone. So if you prefer to have your phone, I'm going to walk away. And it's that type of standard. You're making it very, very clear that you appreciate and respect your time, right? The girls will have respect for you when you have respect for yourself. If you let her treat you like your attention's not valuable, she will start to believe it's actually not that valuable. So you cannot do that. Okay, same thing if you approach a girl and she's being kind of rude in the beginning, not giving you attention, you're like, hey, real quick, I'm a normal guy. I saw you. I thought you were really, really pretty. Okay, but I don't want to have to compete with you. If you're going to treat me like I'm a weirdo, I'm going to walk away and talk to another girl who's actually going to not treat me that way. And there's plenty of girls like that, okay? Understand you're my first choice and start to explain to her, you're my first choice, but I'm not going to be treated like I'm not, like I don't have any value. Really, really important to do that. Now, the next one is obvious time constraints. Now, when I say obvious, I mean, there are ones that are not obvious. You could talk to the girl and all of a sudden her friends come and take her away. you want to be prepared for that if at all possible. Get her number early on just in case. Now, sometimes they are obvious though. If she's standing there waiting right outside the club and maybe she's smoking a cigarette, so sometimes she's just chilling, right? But other times she's very obviously waiting for something. Usually it's a friend or an Uber, okay? You want to ask her, what are you waiting for, right? If she's like, oh, I'm waiting for a friend, you need to start figuring out who the friend is and what their plan is. Because if the friend's going to come and take her away, you need her number now. And you need to start setting a date if at all possible, maybe to meet up with her soon, right? In an hour from now or whatever. But the other one is, let's say she's waiting for an Uber. You need to get the number as soon as possible. Otherwise, the Uber is going to come and you're going to be scrambling for the number and you're going to look really like you might not even get it, okay? A lot of times when I forget, it doesn't really happen to me anymore because I figured it out, but it used to happen to me and I used to lose a lot of numbers that way, so do not do that. Same thing with the train, okay? If you're meeting her on a train platform or something, you want to get her number, especially if it's not obvious which train she's on. So start finding out, oh, are you getting on this train? Because maybe you're getting on different trains, right? In Manhattan, there's like, you can be on one platform, there's 4 different trains coming. So make sure you find out which one's her train. If it's a different one, get her number as soon as possible. It's simple. Hey, okay, real quick. So you seem like a sweetheart. I want to take your number before the train comes so our conversation doesn't get cut off. The other one is, what if you're on the train, right? And she might get off at a different stop than you. Find out which one is her stop and deal with that, okay? Otherwise, landmine, boom, off. You're done, okay? Game over. So don't do that. You don't want to be scrambling at the last second. And if she likes you, a lot of times the fact that you have like the wherewithal and you get how like the obstacles that might come up play, you come off as an expert, you come off as a guy who gets it, and she'll be even more likely to give you her number. So don't act like you don't know this information. It makes you an expert and therefore way more attractive, okay? So get her number as soon as possible. Now, the last one is that this is like a really, really big one. Actually, it's not the last one, but one of the last ones. Landmines on the way home might be the worst ones are solicit. It's not even necessarily on the way home, but in the interaction, interference. Okay, this could be guys coming in to your interaction and trying to talk to her. A lot of times it could be like a cock blocking guy depending on where you are, but a lot of times you know who it is. It's the solicitors. It's in Rome, for instance. Every time you talk to a girl, they're trying to sell you a rose and they just don't go away. And they could ruin your interaction. So if you politely tell them to go away and they won't, move her. Walk away, get her away from them, because they will creep out the interaction. They will dominate the conversation. They'll hijack it, ruin the whole thing very, very often. Okay, it happens so much. It'll happen with beggars. It'll happen with people trying to sell you stuff. It'll happen with people trying to get you to sign their petitions. Okay, it'll happen with people who are handing out flyers and trying to get you into their store. Do not let it happen. Okay, get them away. Now, what you could always do if the girl doesn't want to, you could always like frame it as like, oh, is that where we should go for our date, right? Like if they're trying to get you in their ice cream store, be like, oh, is that where we should go for our date? Something like that. Like make it as if you kind of like deliberately plan that, and if they're a part of like the entertainment, like they're the entertainment for the king and the queen, right? You're the king, she's the queen. You could do that, and it's very solid. I personally would just use that as an excuse to get her even closer to home. Be like, okay, we need to get it out of this area now. It's a bunch of weirdos. That is some big stuff. Be very, very careful about that. They will dominate the conversation. They will ruin it, and you're going to be angry. Okay, so avoid it at all costs. Now, the last one is avoid weird routes to get home. Okay, so this could be, for instance, taking the long way home, taking the train when you should be taking a cab, right? A lot of guys will I've heard guys talk about how they wanted to save money. Oh, I didn't want to pay the $10. So what do? They spent like $6 on the train, or they wouldn't pay for her train ticket, something like that. They're like, here, you got, pay for your own ticket, and it offended the girl. Things like that. Don't do anything weird on the way home. Take the easiest way home. Don't take the longest way home just to save some money. Be aware. I'm not advocating spending $200 for a taxi to get home. In that case, I'd say move closer. But just be smart about how you're going to get home and take the easiest way. But actually, that was kind of like something I thought of just now. I've talked about it a lot. But this one that I want to talk about, I learned the hard way. I was actually shooting footage with Alex, right? And we were walking back with these girls, and we figured let's take the shortest way home, which actually ended up meaning we had to go through this alleyway, which wasn't so creepy. but especially in the daytime, we didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then what happened? They wouldn't go with us. So we didn't figure out why until we were watching the footage and actually kind of reflecting. They wouldn't come with us because the alleyway kind of creeped them out. And it was like just to get to the faster way. And actually, what we ended up doing for the rest of the footage was walking around to the main entrance of the building, which meant not going through that alleyway. Right? We were going to take the back entrance and took the alleyway to get there. This meant going through the main entrance, which was like all public sidewalks and stuff like that. And then we were able to see the nice entrance, right? If you have the infield, you see like the entrance looks pretty. And that actually makes them feel comfortable, okay? They don't want to feel like they're going to an alleyway, and it sucks. She might like you, but you know what? Her defenses go off. She doesn't even get a choice, right? I think it's the amygdala. Like the moment something goes in the amygdala of the brain, you're done, because she starts going into fight or flight. And you know what? Good. It's very much like the bull rider, right? Like you're trying to ride this bull now who's freaking out, and you're like, whoa, just chill. Like I'm not trying to do anything weird, but you're competing against her fight or flight response. So just be smart about that and get her home the easiest way without taking any weird routes, okay? Because that actually, it is something you're gonna have to like play around with and be smart about, okay? But once you figure it out, you'll be good to go, okay? That's it for this video. Be smart about how you get them home, and I will see you in the next one.